Good morning. Hello, everyone. It is Friday. This is episode 20, and you are here at Parent Power Hour. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And it is a beautiful, I don't see any clouds in sight, clear blue skies here in the Dallas area. I think we woke up with 50s or 60s weather, and I don't know about you guys. It's probably the same for you, but when the weather feels great, when it's a beautiful sunny day, that affects everything. And on top of it, it's Friday. Yes, that means we made it through another week. If you're tuning in here, then you did. You made it through. You did that. You made it through 5 work days of wherever you were. I'm going to go ahead and prop up my comment somewhere where everybody can see, hopefully, or where I can see so I'm not constantly looking down. And yes, this is episode 20 of the Parent Power Hour. We spend this time together here to better equip ourselves so that we can more fully, more wholeheartedly show up for those around us that we love and care for, whether that's in our homes, virtually in meetings. And to be honest, so that if you are venturing out, mask on, or 6 foot difference on, or leave the food on the curb and I'll come pick it up and I won't touch you and you won't touch me. Even in those moments, when we are more fully who we are meant to be and more fully ourselves, more grounded in our gratitude, and we know that we're living in the moment of gratitude and living in the moment of, you know what, it's a little bit uncomfortable to have to go through Starbucks or have to wear the mask at Target or whatever it is that you're doing. But even that, when you walk in that situation, if you have a mindset of gratitude, if you have a mindset of wholeheartedness, of knowing that you're showing up for your family at home, then think about how that's even going to affect what little interaction you do get to have with others outside of your home, whether that means it is someone who is in an essential business right now while most all businesses are shut down. You're a lot more likely to be forgiving of them, right? And knowing that they're also handling stress and that they are also probably dropping some bombs on you. Before I continue on, I do want to say we've got a lot of action going on here at the house today. So if we hear some sounds or if we get distracted, hey, we're just being real. We're being real, and that's what Parent Power Hour is all about. That's what NewMinds.tv is all about. Real, inspired learning, hoping that you can fuel up your passions, find some power by identifying and being invigorated, and that your passions can then turn into your talent. And yes, Graham, good morning. My Graham is here. That's my mom's mom. Graham's been tuning in this week, which I love. I saw something really cute, and maybe we'll get to do this too. A really huge person I follow. She gives amazing tips on how to connect, with a virtual audience. She's been doing this for years. She's a bit younger than me, but that doesn't really matter. She's not like full millennial. I'm going to move on with my story. And so I saw her story yesterday. She was going live with her audience, which is like, thousands of people. And her grandfather, and it was her birthday, so this was like 2 or 3 days ago. And her grandfather calls on her phone while she's live, and so she puts her grandparents, actually both of them. So she puts them on speaker, and they wish her happy birthday. And it was just so sweet to witness that, like even as an adult. She has a kid, she has all these thousands and thousands of followers. So who knows, Graham, maybe you'll come at the end of this month and be on a phone call with me and everybody else watching. That could be kind of fun, to do a little impromptu voice only showing by Graham. It has been really neat on that same line, and I'm just sharing these stories with you to show that like there's amazing things happening in the world and people are staying connected. The small business that my mom runs and owns, it's called Smart Start Music, and this is a little bit of an ad, but I'm not being paid for it. So they, of course, it's an early childhood music and movement studio that she runs, and so of course it's typically, 8 to 10 babies and mommies in a room with Miss Jeannie doing live music class and singing and dancing, playing instruments, all of that. And of course, now they have to take everything offline. Good morning, Ben. I'm doing a little Smart Start music, kinder music story right now that you're jumping in on if you're just jumping in. And it was so sweet last week because so Graham is my mom's mom. My mom is Miss Jeannie. Miss Jeannie teaches kinder music. And so Graham has been kind of in the background anyways on some of the virtual kinder music classes that my nephews are in. Good morning, Kelly. Glad you're here again. Yay. I'm telling a little family story about some awesome things that are happening. So that means Graham's great grandchildren. So I'm Graham's. Okay, you got it. You got it. So Graham's great-grandchildren are in kinder music, and so she was on virtual class with them just in the background. Couldn't even see her. Like, she wasn't even showing up in the screen. I realize I'm looking off to the side. I apologize. Here I am. I'm back here. And so what she ended up doing was sparking this awesome idea that my mom, who runs the kinder music studio, ended up doing all last week, and shared the virtual key, the streaming key, that's not the right word, PIN code, had the parents to share that with their parents. So it was like grandparents week, and it was so sweet to see that, like, the babies and the toddlers with their mamas on like one square of the screen, and then like the grandparents, like some people had both grandma and grandpa. I even saw some that had grandma and grandpa and auntie, because they're all in quarantine together. And what a wonderful gift. I mean, and grandparents that have never been able to be a part of the kinder music experience, of the singing and dancing with their babies. I mean, we're talking all over the country. I think I heard China, or all over the world in that case. I think I heard China. I think I heard San Francisco. I think I heard maybe New York State. I can't remember all the places. But it was so cool to see that like screenshot of grandparents from all over, and Miss Jeannie doing some kinder music in the middle, and then all the babies and their mamas and different screens, sharing in that together. And there's many grandparents that will never live in the same place as their grandchildren, and so for them to get to peek into that kinder music class, oh wow. I mean, and get to see their kiddos playing their shakers and telling their made-up stories about their made-up trains and awesome things like that. So I'm telling you these stories on this beautiful Friday here on Parent Power Hour to lift you up a little, to give you a little peek into the fact that there's so many wonderful gifts all around us. And this week we've had some tough conversations here on Parent Power Hour. Had someone comment to me yesterday, and she was just like, man, she's like, you just took it to a next level. She's like, you dug in. She's like, I don't know. She's like, but for me, she's like, wow. She's like, that was a push for my thinking, and I needed that. She's like, it's some things I hadn't thought of before. So here's what we've been talking about this week. I'm just going to do a quick little review, and that's on episode 16, which was on Monday for us here in Dallas. I asked the question, are you keeping it together? And of course, spoiler alert, none of us can, right? We're not able to, we don't keep it together, but there's this pressure from the outside, right? That we look like we're keeping it together, that we look like we've got it, the perfect family with the perfect hair, with the perfect outfit, and all the perfect pictures and all of those things. And so one step to moving towards acknowledging that none of us can keep it together, whether it's crisis or daily life, is that we ask ourselves, whenever these crises come in front of us, whenever another dramatic change in our life or expectation we weren't anticipating comes up, we ask ourselves, do I have enough info to even freak out in the first place? Step one, do I even have enough info to freak out? And if you can say yes to that, then take the journey to the next question, which is to ask yourself, will the freaking out help the situation? You probably said no to the first one anyways, but if you didn't say no to that one, you're going to say no to this one, because freaking out never actually helps the situation, right? Because freaking out gets us in that fight or flight mode. It pushes us into worry about things that we cannot control. I don't have my quote cards with me this morning, but the image that we've been wrestling with or keeping in the front of our minds here on Parent Power Hour is that you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And so when you're out here surfing, emotional negativity is not going to help you with that. Worrying about being able to stand up or not on the surfboard is actually not going to give you the steps, the practical things of, okay, breathe, stand up, find my balance. Okay, this is literal stuff on surfing. I've never surfed. I don't actually know. I just watch people do it. But think about exactly those same words. Breathe, find my balance, stand back up. That's even when you're in a frustrating mode with someone in a virtual meeting, or if you're in a frustrating mode or a crisis mode with your family, okay? There is no power in that worry. There's no power in that emotional negativity. And of course, for us, something that we've really been focusing on is bringing the joy, is cultivating that joy, coming from a place of gratitude. The attitude of gratitude can open up your mind to allow you to set intention with your family, with the interactions that you have. And that means also being mindful of a place coming from a place of optimism. Positivity is not the same as optimism. We're not positive Pollyannas around here. You can't be when you're a parent. You can't be when you are looking for balance. Yes, you are hopeful, okay, but a lot of times this blanket of positivity, and I fall into this trap, I bet some of you do as well, is just like, oh, well, if I just keep my head down, then I'm good. I can't see any of it. It's not even there. Okay, yes, your head down and you're in the sand. It's great in there. You love it. Super positive in there. But when you pull back out, you're like, oh, the world around me is crumbling. No thanks. All right? So instead of going to that extreme just to maintain some positivity, let's go. And I'm doing lots of quotes today. I know that. I'm aware of it. I'm going to work on it. I'm working on it right now. Is that we move more towards optimism. And optimism has to do with hope and has to do with practicing gratitude. And practicing gratitude is how we acknowledge that there is enough, that we're not in this scarcity mentality, running after toilet paper, running after food, running after whatever it is that you're running after. That can be physical things, but it can also be emotional things. You know, am I enough? Am I going to be a good enough parent? Am I going to be able to show up for my team at work and be able to work through the problems that naturally arise whenever we're having virtual meetings because of that disconnect of the physical interpretation of what's happening, right? And then we moved into talking about, you know, what are you going to do with all of this? Here we are. And I gave you guys a heads up if you're just joining me. I did give you guys a heads up about today. We've got a lot of things going on here at the house. And I'm up on the second level, which is right next to the playroom. So if you hear some things back there, everyone's safe and fine. If they're not, then I'll stop the live and we'll go help out. But there's plenty of adults in the house that are going to help out with any sort of sounds of distress, which, as most of you know, for a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old can also mean that they're having a great time. So I just wanted to acknowledge that for those of you who just started joining us. So there might be sounds in the background. So let's shift our perspective. That's kind of what we talked about on Tuesday or in episode 17. How is this life happening for you? How is this crisis for you? Finding a purpose is a lot of time asking yourself, why is this blank thing important right now? Whatever it is that is in front of you, whether it's, you know, sitting on your lawn chair 6 feet away from your neighbor, and, you know, why is that important to you? Even the good things, why is that important to you? And so instead of asking yourself, well, what's the point? What's the point of all of this mess that we're going through? You know, when you're having these probably existential crisis moments, you know, what's the whole point of all of this? Instead of asking that, ask, what can I or what will I be able to do in the future because this is happening around me, because this is happening for me. This is going to bring us perspective. And I love Brene Brown's definition of hope. Let me flip some things around for a second. Oh, it's calm. And this idea that we can maintain calm, there it is, air quotes again. I'm going to try so hard. We can maintain calm And we can have calm as an aspiration, okay? We can go towards that when we are practicing perspective, when we are practicing gratitude, because her definition of calm is when you have perspective and there's mindfulness and the ability to manage emotional activity. Those of us that are teachers, a calming corner is something that's it's been, pretty hot in classrooms for probably like the last, I'm going to round it up to 10 years, because there's a lot more awareness that when children are calm, their brains are ready to learn. There's the whole, the four zones zones of proximal development, the four zones of emotional, it was popularized by the kids movie Inside Out, and those four personalities in that movie. Oh, I stopped myself. Look at that. I'm getting better. The four personalities in that movie, angry, peace. I forget. I'm not gonna try to do them all. But those were extremes, and yet that's kind of was a sign that people are starting to realize, and it's starting to come into, common culture, that when kids are in a place of calm, then they can learn. And you guys have seen this when a child is in distress, when a child is experiencing trauma at home, not your home, but if you're a teacher, this is kind of reviewing what we've done before. Or as a parent, if you're in playtime with another, if you're having, if you're sitting at soccer practice back in the day when we used to do that, or if you're at a play date back in the day when we used to do that, you can kind of sense, when a child has experienced some sort of trauma or stress, because they're not able to regulate and they're not able to get to that place of calm because they don't have the ability to manage their emotional activity. And so for adults, you may be experiencing stress. I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe you have in the last 4 weeks. I'm saying that lightly because it's true. We all have. We've all experienced some sort of stress because we are all in this crisis culture right now. That's the reality of where we are. And so for you as an adult to have some awareness around that and to know that you can become your best self and you can proceed towards the fullness of who you can be as a parent, or as for those that you show up for in meetings in your community. Yes, Kelly just said the same exact thing I did. It's the same thing for adults. We can't move on until we have our own calming corners, our own strategies, tips, and tools, which I've given you so many practical things, from 4-square breathing to shifting your thinking and transitioning, knowing that you need to release tension to set intention. I mean, there's so many tools. I should probably put a document together. I just probably should. This just now came to me. Because over the last 20 episodes, this is episode 20, you guys. What? Oh my word. So many amazing things have come out, not of me, but that I've been listening to you all and cultivating for you, to bring to you, to power you up. And yes, Kelly says self-care. Here it is. Have perspective. Like mindfulness activity. I was going to say achieve or strive for, but those two are very harsh, active words. I'm going to say bring some mindfulness, right, to your thinking practice. Yes, Kelly wants the doc. All right, I don't know. I have some notes. I think I should be able to cultivate something for you. And then that ability to manage your emotional activity. And a lot of that comes down to breathing, slowing down, and asking yourself some of the questions that I have invited you to ask this week. Things like, do I have enough info to even freak out? Instead of asking, but what if, because a lot of us are going to jump to, okay, I don't, I'm zen, I'm cool, I'm here, I've got this, I got this. And then I bet some of you are going to jump into thinking, uh-oh, but what are people going to think? Like, what are people going to think about me by choosing this for my family? Or you start to switch there, and we really unpack that on episode 18 as well, that, instead of asking yourself, what are people going to think? Don't even ask yourself that question. Go straight to, what are people going to, oh wait, I don't need to worry about, first of all, worry is a negative emotional activity, so I don't need to worry about it at all. And even though it's there, I can be aware of it and have the answer that I am enough. And yesterday we practiced saying that out loud together. I am enough. I have everything I need as a parent. I have everything I need as a community member within myself, because what are the things that you have control over? Those waves aren't going to stop. You got to learn to surf. So what are the things that you actually have control over in life is your attitude and your effort. I haven't looked it up yet, but there's an amazing quote, attitude to me means more than the things that I have, because it has such an impact on us, right? And if we can move to this place of perspective and mindfulness and managing our negative activity, then that does bring us in. You're exactly right, Kelly. It brings us into self-care. It brings us into self-compassion. When's the last time you were just as hard on yourself? Let me start over that part. When was the last time that you were just as hard on your children as you are on yourself? Okay, we beat ourselves up all the time. And unfortunately, that does leak out to the way that we interact with our children. And on those bad days, on those good days, you have so much grace for your children. On those good days, you're like, what? He's 5 years old. He doesn't know that throwing something across the room, you know what? I'm going to go help him out because I'm in a good place today. Right? And so you go and let's talk about this behavior. Let's talk about this thing that you chose to do. And you give your child so much grace. And yet you go back at the end of the day. There's some background noise again. If you're just joining us, I already acknowledged it. It's going to happen. There's lots of activity happening in the house today. If for some reason you can't hear me anymore, just shoot me some comments and we'll see what we can do. But the thing is that we're zeroing in on right now is that, treat yourself, and that we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about together, is that, treat yourself the way that you want your children to treat themselves. That was a really chunky way of saying that. But here's what I mean. What we are teaches the child more about who they are than what we say. What we are teaches the child more than what we say. I'm going to give a pause just for a second. I'm going to go see if I can get some vacuuming to happen somewhere away from my room to be sure you can hear me. I'll be right back. People are trying to clean around here. What is that? It's Friday. No, it's all good. So some of the questions that we started and some of the perspective shifting that we're getting into from yesterday was that having some conversations about how we show up for ourselves, right? And that what we are teaches our child more than about what we say, because right, they watch you, they learn from you. And something that's kind of been a theme as well in my thinking, as well as some of the conversations I've been having with some of you, is that, there's this big shift of this big worry and this big like, oh my gosh, like I have to be my child's teacher and I have to go to my team meetings, at 1:00, and I have to like make sure that lunch is done, and I'm all of these things all of a sudden. I would encourage you to acknowledge and to reflect on the fact that you've always been your child's teacher. The content's changed, but you've always been the child's teacher. You are your child's first teacher. They watch you and learn from you from the beginning. They observe you when they're tiny infants and when they're starting to crawl. They watch you walking across the room. That's how they learn to walk. And so while some of these math worksheets and all that stuff is coming at you, how that is handled is the thing that's really going to make the difference in their overall success, whether that has to do with math or not. And so those mirror neurons kick in, right? naturally when we're talking about how the kid can snap back at you and you're snapping back at them, that's not a battle of the wills. That's, I'm the adult and I'm snapping at my child, and my child sees me doing that. So that child is learning from me that that's something that we do in our family. So then we do that. So then the child does that back to me, right? You guys know this. So to transition to some thinking about that, like also how you non-verbally communicate things to your child. Or when you non-verbally communicate to other people that you are in a meeting with, or that you are passing by the drive-through with, the facial expressions that you have when your child comes in from playing outside. It's kind of nice weather here in Dallas today, so we're getting a little bit more outside playtime, probably a lot more outside playtime for a lot of us, right? They come in to the house and you just keep on cooking. You don't acknowledge them. What message does that send to them? The other kind of playthrough I went with that was they come into the house, you are cooking lunch or dinner or whatever it is, you're doing your work, you're in your meeting, you keep in your meeting, you look up at them, they come into the room, and you go back to your meeting. That sends another message. They come into the house from playing outside in the backyard, you look up at them and you smile. That sends another message. They come in from playing in the backyard, you're on your laptop, you look up and you say, hey, you came inside. That sends another message. And just acknowledging something like, or verbalizing something like a fact feels a little awkward at first. If you're not a teacher, it's going to feel pretty awkward. It's something that teachers do often as far as naming those behaviors, helping children to get verbs, words, verbiage in their mouth, a vocabulary, that's the V word I was looking for, a vocabulary for learning to express themselves and for identifying, especially when we're talking about language acquisition learners, who apparently I need to be in that today. This is when my thoughts get going too fast and I want my mouth to catch up and it can't. But even just acknowledging, like being that narrator of what's happening. Oh, hey, you're back inside. Versus a different message, which is, I'm looking at my laptop, kid comes in from playing outside, I look up and I say, hey, what are you doing back inside? That sends another message. I'm not telling you which way to choose. What I am hoping to bring some spotlight on is how that you choose, that you're intentional about it, that you are in a place where there's awareness around the words that you say, the nonverbal things you're communicating as well. And yes, it does sound like a lot. Kelly says, I love all this. It's hard to change. I personally need to work on making intentional time to work on this. That's why you're here. Yes, Kelly, you're already working on it. This is you working on it. So you're the jam. She says, you're the jam. So intelligent. So the question that I put on today was, are you happy? And I wanted to bring that in as the question, and I think some of you have probably caught on that my questions that pop up in my title are what I'm actually asking us to flip the script on. And so, yesterday was, but what will people think? And to flip that script, instead of asking ourselves, what will people think, to don't go there. And as soon as you start conceptualizing about whatever that blank is, about what you're worried about people thinking, is to acknowledge that you are enough and that you have enough within you already, who you are as a parent, the decisions that you've made as an adult have led to this moment to give you everything that you need. And so the question for today is, are you happy? And today, let's consider flipping that. And that answer of, yes, I am happy, define that. Why? How can you, what is it about your thoughts, about your conclusions, about you've said, yes, I'm happy? Define those things. How did you get there? How did you get to that conclusion? When you can define those things, then that's your purpose. Then that's what's embedded in everything within you, because it's gonna change. You're not gonna be quote unquote happy. I am gonna resist the air quotes again, but you're not gonna be happy forever. If you are, come back to reality. come on back and join the rest of us, because this struggle is real. Somebody was saying, telling me like the first time, like, I didn't know that this is called a struggle bus. And I was like, no, this is not a struggle bus. There are no wheels on this bus. This is not even a bus anymore. It's just the struggle, right? We're in the middle of it. We're on week 4 here in the Dallas area, and I know many of you on other sides of the world that are coming into this, like, you're on like month 4, right? I'm not taking that lightly. And so if you have happiness in the middle of this, then maybe this talk isn't for you. Maybe you should sign off and go somewhere else, because the rest of us that are here, we got to be real. And the rest of us that are here are looking for inspiration. And the rest of us that are here are acknowledging that we ain't always happy. We ain't. We just aren't. Okay? And so in those moments of when you're like, okay, I am so not happy with what's happening right now in my family, think of reframing that question and being able to, first of all, identify exactly the facts, the information that's the things that are informing your decision of your happiness, of your lack of happiness, and start to look at, am I holding on to those things? Am I worried about what people will think about those things? Have I started to let those go? Have I started to let go? Are those things where I'm judging myself and I'm not practicing that self-compassion? Saying I am enough is something that you practice here in this level of thinking and evaluating whether you are happy or not, which we'll get to that in a second. But saying that and looking at your life in that way is really, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your kids. Because when you acknowledge that you are enough, it puts you in a place that you can model that for your kids. Whoa, how powerful. How powerful will that be for your children? For them to even just pick up on your energy, your physical, the way you're carrying yourself. Instead of verbalizing every thought that comes through your head about the news that's on and all the mess that's going on in the world and all of your worries, save that for the closed door with your spouse at the end of the day. Save that for, send me a video message. Save that for me. Send me a voice message. Save that for other people, because when kids see that and you're, well, I'm worried about this, and are you going to take care of this in the house, or am I going to take, those sorts of conversations that you're having with your spouse, if you're lucky enough to have another adult in the home with you, then, let's even be careful of that, because you are modeling. And I'm not saying, oh my gosh, you're doing it all wrong. No, what I am saying is, what a gift for you to even model your journey of practicing that sort of thing out loud in front of your kids. Watching the news tonight. Oh my gosh, did you hear that? Another family, another passing, another city shut down, oh my God. Oh, whoa. You know what's happening right now? Billy. Billy's my go-to child. I have no children, so, okay. You guys know me by now. Billy, you know what? I'm so sorry. I was saying a bunch of stuff, adult stuff to you that are things that we're worried about, and you know what, Billy? We actually don't have control over them. I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna get better at this, because I know that you're hearing things, and I know that you also have a lot going on. You're 7, but you also have a lot going on. So, because Billy's gonna stop whatever he's doing, and he's gonna look at you, and you're not even seeing him, but you're looking at the news, and you're saying he's mirroring. You're imprinting on him, for lack of a better term, right? And so how do you get to that place of letting go? How do you get to that place of saying, I am enough? I'm going to pull up some notes here to be extra clear, and to take a second so I can be sure that I'm not letting my thoughts get ahead of my mouth, which happens sometime. But yesterday we talked about this a little bit, and I want to, for a few minutes, go into it again, and we'll come back to how this connects to happiness. Don't worry. Don't worry, that's emotional negativity anyways. You won't be coming from a place of preparedness and readiness to learn. So this is from Brene Brown's Daring Greatly, and her whole last section of the book is called Wholehearted Parenting. I know you don't have time to read it, so that's why I'm pulling some gems out of it for you. And this dipping into this letting go and saying I am enough, because if you're unable to say I am enough, then what you're doing is you're feeling shame, right? And even I bet some of you right now, you're like, I don't feel like I'm enough. I feel like I've already lost it. Here in Dallas, it's only 10:30 a.m. and I've already lost it. I already know. You know what, Kristen? Guess what? I already know. I'm not enough. All right, so what just happened there is a major shame takeover. Major shame spiral just kicked in. And we talked about that yesterday. So go back to episode 19 about some practical ways to get out of that. But here's some more depth to it. That when we raise, our attempt is, and our goal is to raise children who believe in their worthiness and who believe in themselves that they are enough, right? We want that for our children. How could you not? I shouldn't even be asking that question out loud. You're here right now. You want that for your children. That's why you're here. You're here to power up yourself so you can go back and take that to your kiddos. And so the thing is that we have to believe in our own worthiness, and that requires us to model that and to model that journey. And the important thing to know about worthiness is that it doesn't have prerequisites, which is what we talked about yesterday, but shame does. Shame has this timestamp on it that says, well, you'll feel like a good parent when you can post that picture of your child doing X, Y, and Z, whatever you've decided is in your head. That's not actually in alignment with who you are. And parenting right here at this moment, in this moment of this shame spiral, parenting is 100%, it's a shame minefield, because parenting is such a vulnerable endeavor. It requires so much vulnerability for you to show up for your kids. Teaching is a shame minefield because it is also a vulnerable endeavor. For us to get on with our kids, with our students, even virtually. I mean, and those of us that you're parents of school-age children and you're a teacher, you're like doubling up on all of this. And how do we move through that is accepting I am enough. How we move through that is beginning to fill in the gap between what we feel like is fitting in and doing what everybody else thinks we should be doing, and belonging, because that's worthiness. When you feel worthy, that means that you are worthy. Worthiness is about love and belonging. This is Brene Brown. This isn't me. And this is years and years of research. One of the biggest surprises in her research, I'm just going to read this for clarity. One of the biggest surprises in this research was learning that fitting in and belonging are not the same thing. In fact, fitting in is one of the greatest barriers of belonging. Think about this in terms of your parenting, in terms of your teaching, in terms of how you are interpreting this crisis. I'm going to start it again now that your mindset's set up about this. Fitting in is one of the greatest barriers. Being like everybody else, freaking out and going out and buying all the toilet paper, which that's kind of gone now, but whatever the next thing is going to be to freak out about, fitting in with that is one of the greatest barriers. Fitting in is about assessing a situation and becoming who you need to be in order to be accepted. Belonging, on the other hand, doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. She did so much research with kids from middle school, elementary, middle school, and high school, and how this translates to kids. So we address ourselves first, right? Think about yourself. How are you setting yourself up for being who you are? Who you be. Be who you be, right? Because when you're doing that, you're modeling that. And so here's how, and this, I want to read this to you guys because when I read it again this morning, I was like, they got to know the effect of this. Here's how much power you having a sense of worthiness and belonging for yourself can take into your kids, okay? My 5 minutes is almost up on this, but here it comes. Kids talk openly about the heartache of not feeling a sense of belonging even at home. We already know they feel it when they're in their schools, when they're all together in their social groups, even when they're on FaceTime and when they're on TikTok and all those things. There's already a very deep sense of fitting in. And they go there often enough to also know that they can belong to a certain group of people because that stranger supposedly has accepted them for who they are. Belonging, so here we are. The first time I asked an 8th grader to come up with the definitions, one student wrote, "Not belonging in school is really hard, but it's nothing compared to what it feels like when you don't belong at home." When I asked the students what that meant, they used these examples. So you've just shifted from thinking about yourself and how you are presenting, feeling worthy and of love and belonging, and now you model that. And if you don't model it, or if you're not in the place yet where you know you can be, here's what it shows up like for your kids. When I asked students what they meant, they used these examples. These are examples kids gave of feeling like they don't even belong in their own homes. Not living up to my parents' expectations. Not being as cool or as popular as my parents want me to be. Not being as smart as my parents. Not being good at the same thing my parents were good at. My parents embarrassing me because I don't have enough friends, or I'm not an athlete, or I'm not a cheerleader, or my parents not liking who I am and what I like to do. When my parents don't even pay attention to my life. And I'm going to keep reading her so you can settle in, and there's a little bit less because I know this is a vulnerable moment for us to check our parenting. If we want to cultivate worthiness in our children, we need to make sure they know that they belong and that their belonging is unconditional. What makes that such a challenge is that most of us struggle to feel a sense of belonging, to know that we're a part of something, not despite our vulnerabilities, but because of them. And this comes back to what we started with a few days ago. We can't give our children what we don't have. So what do? We grow together. What do? We cultivate a sense of belonging together. We have self-compassion. Compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. This is by Pema Chödrön. Compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. Only when we know our own darkness well can we be present with the darkness of others. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. Check that compassion with your children. Check that way with your self-compassion, because how are you doing with that? Are you forgiving yourself? And this what comes back in with our happiness. Answering the question, are you happy? It depends. Have you forgiven yourself? Are you treating yourself with compassion? Because happiness is directly correlated with forgiveness. And forgiveness is the ability to let go. This is everything we talked about this week. The ability to let go. Forgiveness is the ability to let go of chaos. To let go of the self-judgment that you're giving yourself. Redundant, but you know what I mean. Forgiveness is letting go of the trauma, of the disappointment that's been happening over and over daily for you. Letting go of that is a process, and that means to be forgiving of yourself so that you may be forgiving of others, and then that's how you can answer, yes, I am happy because I've forgiven myself. Forgiveness is the ability to let go of chaos, trauma, and stress. I'm going to show you guys just to make sure it's super clear. Happiness is directly correlated with forgiveness. And forgiveness is the ability to let go of chaos, trauma, and stress. Yes, preach, Tina. Tina just said something to practice every day. Don't we know it? And this is not insurmountable. It is not impossible. And it is also not maintainable. We check in And I'm being super intense about this right now because of our kids, right? Because of how the world is going to change and how it is changing, and it is changed. It is changed, period. Something that I've been sharing in some conversations is, we're hearing a lot of this, like, well, when it's all over, when it's all over, when it's all over. It's not over right now. And this, hang with me for a second. It's not going to be over, because what's happened is a worldwide change, and there is no over, but there is something new, and there is something different. It's not going to just end, oh, like a movie, it's over. Okay, let's walk out of the movie theater. Now we can go back to get in the car and do what we always did. No, no, no. There is no over. And something that I heard that I've been sharing, and I'm going to share it with you all this week right now as well, is that, someone referred to it as the lift. Think about that. Like when all the restrictions are lifted, when, all of the limitations are lifted, that box lid is going to be lifted, and what's going to be inside of it? Are we going to have healthy children? Are we going to have healthy relationships with our families? If we can daily ask ourselves these questions, and some days at the end of the day be like, well, that was a 0. Remember our scale, 1 to 5. How are you rating yourself on your social, your skills, yourself, and your service? Okay, 4 S's from last week. I'll add that to the PDF. Kelly, don't worry. But we're going to wrap it up here. So we can't claim that we care about the welfare of our children if we're shaming the parents for the choices that we're making. If we are shaming each other, if we are judging each other, we can't claim that we actually care about our kids. And one of the biggest surprises that we have learned today is that fitting in and belonging are not the same thing, and that forgiveness begins with, what was it? Do you remember? I don't remember. I do remember. The ability to let go. Let it go. Now it's going to be stuck in your head all day. You're welcome. I could also sing a song about you're welcome. It's Friday. I was hoping to kind of be in a trend of ending our Fridays with like a dance party. But what we did and unpacked today is heavy, and it's a lot. And I also want you to take it in stride. Come back and listen to this again if you need to. Add the comments and the questions. And yes, I loved hearing from both Kelly and from Tina. And Miss Jeannie's on now. Miss Jeannie, you'll have to go watch the beginning again. I did a whole 5-minute celebration of what a gift it was to see grandparents on with kinder music classes with Smart Start Music. Not an ad, but definitely a promotional because it's a family thing. But that the weekend is here. Last Friday, I challenged you to find something to still distinguish your days, right? And yes, we are dancing on the inside, says Tina. I love hearing that. Do something to set yourself up for some excitement, right? Like, plan something that's to play in the sprinkler out in the backyard if that's not something your family ever does. Whatever it is, find something. I mean, for me, last weekend I ordered some spray to cover up my gray roots because they're starting to come in. You guys can see them. And I haven't opened it yet, so that's going to be my weekend excitement. But it's silly stuff like that. It's good. Oh, good. Mom was watching. She was on a watch party. Watch parties are good. So that reminds me, if you guys like what you're hearing, you like what you're watching and seeing, even if you can just plug in, don't even look at me while you're making dinner or something later tonight, pass it on to your friends. I know today was heavy. This week was pretty heavy as well as far as really getting in, but we do that so that we can power ourselves up. And that's what Parent Power Hour is about. I hope you experienced something real. I hope that you found some inspiration in what happened today. The more you share it and repost it and put thumbs ups, and comment on things, the more, that's the way the Facebook algorithm works, the more it gets shared out with other people. So if some of you noticed, there were quite a few people in here at the beginning, and that's because you were here. The more of you that kind of pop in, it tells your friends that you're here, and then that celebration, that love and that community grows. And that's my number one hope for you, is that you come here, you find something that you can take back to your family and that you can be passionate about, and you're pursuing that daily, and that if you're in a moment of weakness, straight up, send me a DM, pop up in my Facebook Messenger, put a comment on here. I am more than willing and ready to be here for you as support, as confidence, as reassurance that you got this, you are enough, and let it go. Just let it go. Go into the weekend letting it go. Bye, everybody, and I hope to talk to you soon on Monday. Have a wonderful celebratory weekend.